Hello and welcome to Love Anything Art. Got another project idea for you today. Just having a little fun here in my studio room. I wanted to show you this though. I made a YouTube play button out of clay. It's not perfect, but I'm not really good at canes, so this was as good as it gets for me. It has little pretty glitters inside, and I did get partnered a few months back, and I finally earned my first $100 check. Took me several months, but I did it, and that's what's important. That was my goal, and I reached it, and I wanted to make a little memento for myself for the first dollar earned. This is just a really cheap photo frame from the dollar store or the $1.25 store, and I just made this out of it. I kind of wanted to share that with you guys. Appreciate you subbing to my channel and sticking around. If you've been here since the beginning, I appreciate it. If you're new, I appreciate it. Okay, let's have some fun and make some clay. I'm going to be using some translucent. If you've watched the last, 4, 5, 8 videos of mine, I've done nothing but translucent clay projects. I am in love. Kind of trying to branch out and do some like faux stones. So that's kind of what this is. Just picking out colors that are speaking to my heart, and then I make something out of it. Also, I've been trying to really use a lot less clay, so I'm trying to be very mindful. So if these little itty bitty pieces don't look like a lot, once you get all of your clay colors together and get everything mixed and start making something, it tends to be a lot more. So I'll just kind of keep adding clay to this project throughout. Got my first color going there. It's this really pretty, I guess, fuchsia-ish kind of pink color. I was really kind of going for more of a purple kind of color, but I didn't quite have the ink color for that. So this was the best one. I tested them all out, and this is the one I liked the best. So I'm going to be using some white alcohol inks, and I'm going to just pretty much douse my clay in that and coat it all the way around. It'll change the outer color a little bit, but the inside, because I'm not mixing it up, will still be that pretty pink color. You could also just take your paintbrush, put a little bit of white on there, and then just dab it on there, and it won't quite change the color so much, but it really comes out looking white once it's all done, so I didn't really find it to be an issue. And I let it dry pretty good, maybe slightly damp still. And then I'm going to just take those and lightly form them into a ball or cylindrical shape. Again, this is a little bit of clay, but this is going to be something I'm going to stick on top of another piece, so you don't need a lot of clay. And this actually was too much, so I ended up not using all of this for this particular piece that I'm going to be making. I'm just slicing mine up. I still want them in big chunks, but I want them to be kind of partitioned a little bit. And then I'm going to put another color sandwiched in between all those. So I picked this greenish oceany color, and I'm just going to use some more translucent clay. So this is the color, and it's quite pretty. Just again putting that on top of there, and I do like to kind of spread it out a little bit. That's why I'll use the paintbrush and kind of smooth it out, and it'll help dry a lot faster, and I'm kind of impatient, so just kind of coating the entire top layer. It's totally optional, but if you leave it in a big blob, it won't dry as fast. And then you'll want to mix that up pretty good. I rolled mine out using my pasta machine, but you can roll it out as thin as you can by hand. And it's a nice, pretty color, I think. This is the color I'm going to use to sandwich in between my pink clay I have there. So I'm just going to take little sections of that and lay it out on the green clay, and then or blue clay, and I'll trace around that. I only want the inside covered, so all the spots inside where I had made those cuts. So it doesn't really have to be uber super perfect. And it kind of is a little tedious here, but there's only a few pieces, so it didn't really take that long. And the pieces that are going to be like in the very center that's going to be touched by all of the other sides, you don't have to put any clay on that unless you want to. Otherwise it's going to get really thick in those areas. Totally up to you. So I think there's one little piece that's kind of in the center, so I didn't put any green on that. If there's two sides touching, you can just do one side, but I kind of wrapped everything except for that one little piece. And then just kind of started smooshing it between my fingers a little bit, just to get all the pieces kind of stuck together. Join that back together. And then I'm going to wrap that up in that same clay. Just kind of trimming off my ends there. Trying to make it nice and neat and tidy as I go. And then the extra clay from that, I'm just gonna roll that out until it's a relatively thin piece. Cut those or chop them into itty bitty tiny little pieces. You can make yours as big or as small as you want to. I think the smaller it is, the better it's going to turn out. Putting that back on my tin foil to catch all my little ink messies. I'm going to coat that in white and then give it a nice mix. And I'm coating it pretty good. Then I'm going to take my rolled up little piece of clay I was working on, and then I'm going to coat that in all those little pieces I chopped up. It really is a lot of fun just kind of mixing everything together and seeing how it comes out. I really enjoy that process. And you can make the outer layer as thick as you want. If this isn't thick enough, then you can do some more chopped up color, put it on the outside, and keep doing that until it's as thick as you want it to be. I basically kind of just wanted like a little thin ring around the outside. Again, I'm going to use some more translucent clay. A little bit more than I thought I would. I forgot that I was going to use this for the backing of my clay. So again, I'm using that same ocean color, just going to mix that up. But when I'm mixing it this time, I don't want to over mix it. I want the raw translucent clay to still show through in parts. It's going to kind of give the background a nice like swirl pattern, or almost like an ocean kind of a wave pattern in it. So don't thoroughly mix it all the way. And I did kind of roughly do it in my hands, and then I ran it through my pasta machine like once or twice. It's really up to you. It's going to kind of look marbled in a way. I guess you could look at it that way too. I have my nice little weird shape of that. Cutting off the very ends, and of course save that stuff. I'm using all of my clay. So once I finished cutting out my pieces from this, I did kind of combine it all and make another piece. I wanted to make sure that I used up all my clay as I went, and I'm going to kind of try to do that from now on because I just have so much scrap clay, and I'm kind of working on an idea right now for a scrap clay project. So hopefully in the next day or two I'll get to filming that so I can get that all done and taken care of and uploaded to YouTube. It takes me about a week to get the videos done from start to finish. I do have another channel where I make food videos, so on that channel it also does take me sometimes a week to do videos for that, so that's kind of why it takes me so long. I got 2 channels going on here. I'll leave a link below if you are interested in that. If you like food, I'll leave a link below for you. I keyed. And then this is the piece. I just put little thin pieces on the top, and then I realized it's probably too thin. I'm really only going to be making 2 pieces out of this, so I don't need a lot of clay, which was kind of the whole point from the onset of this. So yay, I did it. Just kind of stacking it so the front and the back are the same. I like earrings that have the same on the front and the back. Sometimes it's just easier just to slap a solid color on the back, but this time I wanted to have an overall same pattern on both sides, kind of like you would if you got like stone earrings or faux stone earrings. The whole thing is going to look like it and not the back be one solid color indifferent to the front color. Just cutting out my shapes. I just used some paper cutters, and then these are them. I did go ahead and bake those, so these are after they're baked. And then the hearts were kind of just a mix of all of it together. And I did have a request. I've actually had about 2 or 3 different ones about resin, so I kind of wanted to go over that process very, very shortly and kind of show you how I resin my pieces. All polymer clay artists will probably do things differently, so you kind of got to figure out what works best for you, but this is just kind of what logically made sense to me, and this is basically how I do it. I do glue in all of my eye hooks before I do the resin. It just keeps it held in place, and also I'll be using some tweezers or some pliers to hold that while I do resin, so I do need them glued into place. And I've had a request to see which kind of resin I use. This is the resin. It doesn't really have a name, but I'll try to find a link on Amazon and put it in the description box for you, so if you're interested in it. I really like it. It doesn't like leave a lot of air bubbles, so it works out pretty good for me. And then I'm going to be using a paintbrush, a very small one, and then you'll just need a toothpick or something that's going to be able to hold your clay in place that you don't mind getting resin on. And the first thing I do is I do all the edges around my pieces. So like on this one I'll do all the outside, and then I'll go back and I'll do that inside piece, and then I do the back, and then I do the front. And I do all of these pieces here. I'm moving to the side, will kind of be done that way. The ones that are more domed, I do the back side first. So I'll resin that, cure it, and then I'll come back and I'll do the front. And I'll show you here in a minute how I do it. But you can use a pliers or jewelry tool to hold it in place while you resin. And I do have a pour resin and then one I can dip. And I'll kind of show you as I go along here, but sometimes it makes more sense to just be able to quickly dip and then just kind of smear it on as opposed to holding it and pouring it on. I find that having both those works the best. And again, the heart's going to work the same, do the back and then the top dome. So I'm going to go off and I'm going to do all of the sides of all of my pieces, and I'll kind of show you how I'm doing it here. You can do it however you want to, but I just use the dipping resin bottle and then just kind of coat the outside, just kind of gently going along. You don't want to go like super fast and like swish it all around because you're going to get air bubbles in there. So just lightly in the same direction, I guess, kind of just go over it. And you want just enough on there. You don't want to be spreading around basically air, but you don't want it to be so thick that it's like gobbing over the sides. And also, if you want to, you can use the pliers while you're doing this to hold it in place. So it might be easier for you, but my hands get really shaky. So sometimes holding that tool really starts to make my hands shake even more, especially doing it on camera. It would probably be a nightmare. But you just want to make sure you go around all the outside. And this is it after I've cured it. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to do the back. I don't put a whole bunch on the back. I do put a good decent amount. The front side is going to be more domed. I like it that way. The back's a little bit flatter. You're not really going to see it a whole lot, but you want to put enough on there to where you're not just smearing around like really thin amounts, because then you're going to get those air bubbles. So I would just put some on there and kind of lightly coat the outside, going as close as you can to that rim. The sides are already done. You don't want to like make it drip over the side, but just kind of lightly follow the pattern of the outside. And that is it before it's been resined. I'll go ahead and resin it. And then I'll show you my domed pieces that I do, or the round topped pieces. And you're gonna kind of see my hands in some spots, but I do move out of the way. I put a generous coating on it because this is the front, and I do like to have more on the front than the back. You don't want to overdo it because it will literally start dripping down the sides. So if you want to start with a smaller amount, enough to where you're going to be able to spread pretty good, and then add some more. It's easier to kind of dop some more on there as you go, as it's needed. That's why you got that little open one that you can just dip your paintbrush down into. I start on the top and I kind of work my way towards the sides, kind of gathering and grouping it down, kind of being mindful of all sides, because if you kind of tilt it like I'm doing it, you'll kind of see that it'll start to drip. So you just got to kind of be mindful, go around, make sure it's got a nice even coating on there. This is it before I'm going to put it in the cure box. And then I went ahead and assembled all my pieces, and then it took about 15 minutes or so, I would say, for each piece, both the back and the front separately. So each piece probably took a total of about 30 minutes, but I resin them, I put them in there, and I'm continuing to resin as I'm putting more and more in there. So some cure faster than others, and then others take a little bit longer, but I would say at least 15 minutes is a good starting period, and then let them cool for a few minutes before touching them. Honestly, I would probably wait about 30 to 40 minutes if you can before touching them at all. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. Please leave me a comment below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!